All right, folks, how you doing? Russell, TrueResults303.com. Check out the website, link in the description box. Coming at you today. This video is just going to talk a little bit about confession. I already have a video on the topic, and it is geared more towards where it is in the Bible. Is it in the Bible? Because I know a lot of people have those questions as well. So to tell you the truth, I would say kind of look at that one and see what's going on. If I remember, I'll throw it in the description box with this one, so it's easily accessible for you. You just click and you can kind of look at it, all right? So first off, this happened about probably about a month ago. There's a priest that visits our parish, and to tell you the truth, his homilies are just amazing. I really like listening to him, to him talk. His name is Father Bart. They say you should never have a favorite priest. I really like his homilies, though. They're really good. But the whole homily was just about confession, of course, because it was Lent. So it's just coming back, to the church, following the sacrament, becoming closer with God, because that's truly what confession is. And he talked about a story that he heard from a priest before he was ordained. And so I want to get this out of the way because I told one of my clients who is an ex-Catholic and now he's a pastor at another church. But don't get this wrong, folks. Priests have to go to confession too. They're not above the rules. Priests go to confession as well. So, he said something like he goes to confession 6 to 8 times a year. Like I said before, I think the church says you should at least go once a year. But he talked about a story that before he became ordained, his mentor, I assume it was, if I remember correctly, told him, confession is a true gift, and you, as a priest, being able to hear these confessions is going to be a great gift. He told him, when you hear these people of the Catholic community, whether they go to your parish or not, I choose not to go to my parish for confession because, for some reason I wouldn't like my priest to know my sins. Hopefully that'll be something I can get over and be able to set aside. But for me, I struggle with that, so I go somewhere else. But he said, when you listen to the sins of the community, of the members of our church, you will realize how difficult sin is in people's lives and how it can really eat at them and really bring them down and really, and just really cuff them and bring them away from God. And that's how you'll understand that this is a really great thing that you're doing, not only for them, but for God as well. And he said he never understood that until he actually sat behind the screen in a confessional and had to listen to a confession, and he realized that he was doing a very great thing and really helping people. And he said it's one of, the greatest things that he enjoys doing is listening to these sins and being able to talk with people and get these things out of their mind and let them know that it's okay. Another one is I listen to Christian rap, a guy named D1, and he talks about, in one of his songs, we all got that secret on our heart that we be guarding, is what he says. And there's something that you'll never tell anybody, no matter what. You're afraid to speak these things, and that one little thing can just eat at you if you don't express it and get it out into the open. And that's one of the great things about confession, and it can relieve you of those tough times and those things that you're just so disappointed with yourself and you struggle so much. And I would assume, since he brought that up in his song, that he's not a Catholic man. I know he wears rosaries and things like that. So I kind of hoped he was Catholic. I'm kind of like my mom in that sense, where I want everyone to be Catholic. I see it's great. The tradition is great, and, the beauty of the faith, but, everybody has their own path. So I just wanted to, I kind of ranted there. I wanted to talk a little bit about my own confessions. But then I also had some Bible verses here. We talk about, the priest, when you're done, he tells you, your sins are forgiven. That's what he tells you, right? And I didn't look it up in here. But the series AD just came out, and this past Sunday when it came out, I think it was Peter healed someone, and he said, "I didn't do this. Jesus did this through me." And that's what we've got to understand. That's what the priest is doing. He is forgiving your sins through Jesus. Jesus is the one truly forgiving the sins. He's just the intermediate. He's just there saying it. And Jesus is truly doing these things. And that's the great thing of it, is being able to hear those words, right? Because that's what we have in the Bible. So I'm in Luke, where am I at? Luke 7:36 is where the story starts. The sinful woman, a sinful woman forgiven. And so I'm not going to, read the whole thing, but it comes into, he talks about she came in and washed his feet and things like that. And Jesus said, "You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with ointment. Therefore I tell you, her sins, which were many, have been forgiven. Hence, she has shown great love. But with no one to whom little is forgiven loves little." Then he said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." Right? Jesus actually said this to her. Your sins are forgiven. This is where a lot of the Pharisees and Sadducees, that's what they were telling him. You can't do that, right? When he started saying these things, your sins are forgiven. This was like the ultimate disrespect in their views, right? You're blaspheming. That you're not God. You can't do that stuff, right? You aren't allowed to do that. So that was a big thing. Jesus actually saying, look, no, you have been forgiven. And I understand how people say, I can just say this to God, right? I can just say this to God myself, but there's still, Jesus always told them, your sins are forgiven. So that's the benefit as well of going to confession, is that priest telling you, your sins are forgiven. Go forth and sin no more. Your sins are forgiven, right? And that's kind of what, Jesus said here, the woman caught in adultery, That's what he says. Woman, after the stones, they drop the stones, they walk away. And he says, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, no one, sir. And Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again. Sin no more. Your sins are forgiven. Same thing. Sin no more. Your sins are forgiven. The same thing. That's the same concept. He's telling them what to do. He's telling them, don't do this anymore. Your sins are forgiven. And that is the beauty of confession, that we're able to hear those words. Go forth, sin no more. Your sins are forgiven. That's the great thing about it. So for those, I'd say dive into more about this confession thing and kind of open your mind to it, because that, when it comes down to it, we have to be open-minded to other things. That's why I've also said in a video, studying other religions is okay. We have to be open-minded to all these other aspects of spirituality. Now, for me, when it comes to my own personal experiences in confession, I haven't done it much, to tell you the truth. I did it, of course, when I got my first Holy Communion. That was when I was probably 7. I'm going to be 33 this year. And then I got my confirmation. I did it late. I got my confirmation in, I think, 2007. So, of course, you have to do it again there. And then I went to confession about 2 years ago. It's 2015, so it was the end of 2013. That was when I went in and made my confession. And this one, I probably did it where a lot of people would say, you don't make a confession that way. But I sat at home and I was writing notes. I hadn't been to confession in 6 years or something like that. So I was writing notes. Like, I went in there with paper and pad and ready, And it was probably a 15-minute confession. And the priest probably thought to himself, oh man, this guy just needs to be quiet. I don't want to hear it anymore. But one of the confessions that I made was, as being a godfather, you've probably seen a few videos in the fitness challenge and stuff with my goddaughter Sky, was I wasn't living up to my obligation to God when I decided that I was going to be this child's godfather, because my duty is to make sure that she herself, goes to church and grows spiritually. And I wasn't doing that. And at that time, my cousin had stopped going to church. And, it never crossed my mind, or it might have crossed my mind to take her to church, but I never went through with it. It was just a thought, oh, I should probably ask her, but I never did. And I made that confession along with a lot of other things, but that was one of the main things that I made that confession, that I wasn't living up to my duties as the godfather. And I left that confessional. I went to church. I received communion. The next day, the next week, something like that, I went and asked my cousin, is this something that Sky wants to do? Does she want to go to church? And my cousin told me, yeah. I just tell her no, I'm not going to take her. And how can you prevent a child from going to church when she wants to go to church, or he wants to go to church? That's a great, it's a great thing. And I think just, the next thing is, of course, we all have those sins that are, that are recurring all the time, whether it be lust, greed, gluttony, whatever it is. But being able to consistently go to that confessional and express those sins to the priest and hear those words, you're more conscious when you come out of the confessional of what you have done. And it seems like it's something so small, and it's something that doesn't really matter, but it does. These small little things can build up and really tear you down. And there's some other sins that I've had, I told you, but I promise you right now, I promise you that, like I said, I went in 2013. I went 2 months ago during this Lent season, and then a month ago I actually was able to take my goddaughter, and that was a great experience. Her and I went to confession together. I don't know how great of an impact it had on her. Her and I will definitely have to discuss these things, but every time I've went into that confessional, I've came out more clear-headed than when I went in. A big weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and I think with that I grew spiritually a little bit more every time. Of course, I'm still not perfect, and I still deal with the sins in my life, but I'm slowly getting better. So all I can say is if you're a non-Catholic Christian, kind of dive into it a little bit more, research it, and see if it's something that you're interested in, because that gift of confession is something really great. And then for Catholics who are afraid to go, like I have been, I'm trying to make it a monthly thing, a few times a year, something like that. I'm doing decent now. Get back in that confessional, and and just confess to the Lord what you've done wrong, what you're struggling with in your life. Because once we're able to air out, kind of that dirty laundry, that laundry list of our shortcomings, great things can happen. So just be open-minded, get back in that confessional, and talk it out with God and with the priest, and see what changes that you can make in your life. And then if you're someone who even, you kind of went away from the Catholic Church, but you're able to go to confession, I would say just at least go try it out again, and go in there and sit down and confess your sins to the priest and to God, and see what kind of changes that can help for you. You've already went through that process. So when I was listening to the Catholic radio station a while back, that's what the one guy said. He said he wanted to go back to the Catholic Church, but he didn't know what to do, or it might have been a female, I'm not sure. And that's what he said. He said the great thing is you don't have to do anything. Just go to confession. All you have to do is go to confession, confess your sins, get back in the good graces of God and the church, and go back to church. That's all you have to do. Come back, come home. That's all we want you to do. So, if you've been struggling and you need to get that burden off your shoulders, and you've already received that gift of confession, get back in there, folks. I guarantee you it's going to change you, and it's going to help you. All right? So once again, thank you for watching. I hope this video helped, whether it be you exploring the Catholic faith more, or getting you back into the Catholic faith, getting you back into the confessional something. If it helps you in any way, I really hope it does. Share these videos, like these videos, please, and subscribe to the channel. And let people know that this channel is available, all right?